Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. This is Franz, Sidney, today with Leanne Naylor from the south of England. And welcome to the show, Leanne.
Hello, welcome. Hi, fans. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, it's good to be together today because we're going to help you guys listen to the show with a very important problem that a lot of people have. And I think it's quite maybe understated. It's the sleep issue. It's not sleeping enough or going to bed at different times and then not be able to have a routine, or maybe you have kids that wake you up every single night and I can't sleep, and then you get used to that, and then when you're in middle age, you're still waking up in the middle of the night. Who knows? Or maybe you have this thing that when you wake up, you're very tired. You can't socialize anymore because you're just so tired and tired. You might have even poor concentration or not much focus. So there could be a lot of things. And the problem is that after you start having problem with sleep, then you go to bed thinking, oh, it's going to be so hard to go to sleep. And therefore, you are priming yourself for not sleeping. And I have plenty of friends who tell me and relate to so many sleepless nights. So this is such an important topic. I've already devoted so many episodes, but now I got the expert on sleep. So Leanne Taylor, you guys, you have to really focus and listen because she's been working with the NHS, which for those who don't know is the National Health Service in the UK. And she's also a hypnotherapist. She uses advanced conversational hypnosis and psychotherapy, CBTI, NLP, and she helps people to understand how and what was going on in their life. So they go from being always tired and not sleeping properly and regularly to be able to sleep well and, of course, live well. And Leanne also is a best-selling author, and she goes around England teaching people in the NHS how to deal with that. I mean, teaching practitioners, teaching doctors what to do. So I'm so happy to have you here. And what can we do in 40 minutes? So let's start with a problem. The typical client that comes to you, what's going on with him? What are the symptoms?
Okay, so typical clients that I work with are people who struggling to either get to sleep, stay asleep, so they've got nighttime waking, not really sure why, maybe. And there's nothing medically that's causing it. So they've had all the tests and things, and there's no medical reason for it. And they've tried lots of different things as well. So they might have tried lavender on the pillow. They might have tried meditation. May have tried taking some flowers. Yeah. Maybe taking sleeping medication or drinking alcohol. So people do have a little nightcap before bed. And none of it's really worked. And they're still having this waking and struggling to get to sleep. So basically, people come to me as a last resort, if I'm honest, having tried lots of different things and really not getting to the bottom of why it is that they can't sleep well.
And of course, we understand there are times when you can't sleep because people are waking you up, because children are waking you up, because the pain is waking you up, because you have a condition. So, but other times, there isn't anyone else there. And, like, for example, you might have clients, they wake up and any noise, anything rattling, a small thing outside, they wake up and that's it. They can't go back to sleep. And
exactly that. Yeah.
It's been alert, isn't it? Listening to those noises. Is it the same if you have constant noises or if you have sudden noises? Do you think?
It depends on the person. So, I mean, really, if you're waking up that easily because of the slightest little noise, then that tells me you're not really getting a good quality sleep, you've got a deep sleep. Because really, when there's noises going on around us, we should naturally be able to sleep through that. If it's only a light noise, if it's somebody drilling by your head or drilling outside your window, that's a little bit different. If it's a light noise, then we should generally sleep through it. Unless, of course, we're possibly a mum with a baby, that's different. Our biology changes. If we're not the new mum and we haven't got anything loud going on next to us or outside of our window, then light noises shouldn't really wake us at all.
We should be able to sleep deeply.
We should, yeah.
Okay, that's interesting to know. And how about light? Does that interfere with sleep?
Yes, it does in a couple of ways, really. So light's really important in terms of getting enough light in the day. So when we're awake in the daytime, We should be awake and active, not just lying in bed, lying on the sofa, lying on the couch. The getting up, being active is really key, as is getting enough light into our eyes and into the retina, because that helps produce the melatonin, which is our sleep hormone, and helps to regulate our circadian rhythm, which is our body clock and part of our homeostatic system. And without enough light, neither of those things are going to work properly, and therefore going to impact your sleep. So light's really important in that respect, in terms of having a good quality sleep and getting enough melatonin and our circadian rhythm and things. But also in terms of when we are asleep, does light affect us in terms of waking us up? Then yes, it can do. Because naturally, we are born to sleep in darkness and be awake in the light. If there's too much light in our bedroom, our environment, our sleeping environment isn't conducive to a good sleep, like being dark and being cool, then that can impact our ability to sleep and stay asleep.
Yeah, especially in the early morning.
Yeah.
You know, you get the sun coming through. If you don't have blackout curtains, you're going to have all the sun coming at 5 a.m. in the UK. So
Exactly.
4:30.
Yeah.
And so you have all
some
this
people
light.
might like that. Yeah,
And
some
so
people
how
might
you
get up at 4:30,
yeah.
but not everyone does. So, you do have to think about your environment, and is it dark enough? Is it cool enough? Really temperature-wise, you want to be going a couple of degrees below sort of body temperature, really. Obviously, give or take a little bit, depending on the person. Some people feel the cold and the heat more than others. So, you'll know what's right for you. Try that out. And, making sure that it is dark and it's a calm environment as well. Your environment is really key to a good sleep. Making sure it's calm. I always say to people, having a nice, tidy sleeping space is really good. But for some people, it depends. A majority of people having a tidy, calm, sort of peaceful space to sleep in is really helpful. For some people, they need a bit of mess. So some people I work with maybe sort of neurodiverse, for example, and they're the kind of people that I tend to find prefer a bit of mess in their bedroom. Otherwise, it feels too clinical sometimes for them. So I just thought I'd highlight that. So making sure the environment basically is good for you as a person. It's quite individual, and it depends on the person. But making sure it's a nice, safe place for you, and that it's the right temperature and it's adequately dark. Like I said, you don't want the light coming in at 4:30 in the morning and waking you up. But yeah.
Terrible thing. And then in winter, there is no light until 8 a.m. in the UK. So you're like struggling to wake up. And then you might have those gloomy days when it's dark the whole day and you're there struggling to keep awake because your body hasn't worked out its daytime. So we do understand the sleep issues are a big, big thing. So in your role in the NHS and also as a podcast guest and trainer of people, where do you start to help the clients? Do you do like an assessment, an ACE assessment, a history? What do you do?
Yeah, so in my NHS role, that's around mental health. That's my background is mental health. So within that role, I bring in my sleep work as well. And I always start off with an assessment, always, because you never know. You can have people say, oh, I have a consistent sleep routine, for example. Really, go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time. Go, okay. And then we do an assessment where I kind of look at the whole person. So we're looking at their sleep, we're looking at their diet, we're looking at their day routine, their night routine, work-life balance, stress levels, family, etc. Because it all plays a part. And within that, there's a sleep diary, like I mentioned. And it's interesting because everyone goes, oh, but I go to bed every time, at the same time every night, I wake up at the same time every day, every morning, and go to bed consistently, And I'm like, okay, just do this sleep diary for me then, and let's just check some things. And very often, like 9 out of 10 times, these people that say they're going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time, actually aren't. And it's really interesting to see. So we think we got ourselves in a routine. We think we get ourselves into a nice, consistent pattern. But actually, when you look at it, it's not really like that. And people are like, well, actually, yeah, the other night, I went to bed at 10, but I read my book for a while, or I watched a bit of TV, and next thing you know, it's midnight. Well, there we go. So already you're 2 hours out of sync, out of routine. And it's so easily done, which is why it's so important to do a sleep diary and to do an assessment and to check these things out. Things like medication and any risks and things like that. The other thing as well about an assessment is always good to find out what it is that the person wants. because obviously people want better sleep, but what does that look like for them? Because it's different for everybody.
Mm.
So, for example, I might want to go to bed at, say, 10 p.m. and get up at 6 a.m. But some people might not want to go to bed at 10. They might want to go to bed at 9, or they might want to go to bed at 11. They might want 6, 7 hours sleep, or 8, whatever works for them. Some people might work shift patterns as well, so it's really useful to find out what it is that they want, and try and give the person where possible. The other thing is to make sure about risks, things like medication, what medication are people taking, if any, what supplements are people taking, because that can all have an impact and have a contraindication on our sleep as well. So, it's always good to check those things out. And to make sure, with the ACE assessment, so looking at adverse childhood experiences, because that can play a role in our sleep. Quite often that does play a role in our sleep, actually, because that's linked in with usually some kind of emotional upset or trauma in some cases. And that's really key, because that's when you're looking at everything in the whole person and there's a sleep issue of some description, whether it's amount of sleep or quality of sleep or both, and there's no physiological underlying reason for it, like I mentioned earlier, it's highly likely that it's a psychological reason. And that's where I come in. I focus on sleep behavior, sleep psychology, and how we can work with our mindset and our thoughts and beliefs and things like that to reinstill our ability to sleep. Because sleep is innate. We're all born to sleep, okay?
Yeah.
If we have insomnia, that's a learnt behavior. It's not something that we're born with.
Yeah. Interesting. And thank you for that. It does remind me of one of my longtime friends.
Yeah.
He was saying, I think I know him for like 15 years, more than that, maybe 20 years, but not like a very close friend, but close enough. And the person was telling me, yeah, I can't sleep. I haven't been able to sleep properly since I was a child. And you could see there was this history of, without disclosing too much, events in the life of this person that you would be worried about, very worried. And then that was followed by the addiction to alcohol. And so now the person that I was talking about goes to sleep thinking, oh my gosh, I'm dreading another night awake. And so it's a cycle that keeps going. And perhaps in these cases, you would be working on the past trauma, neglect, or adverse event to get those out of this unprocessed box and get them out and put them where they belong in the past, so they don't come back and haunt you, because there must be something that wakes you up subconsciously sometimes, and or it keeps you on this fight or flight mode where you are listening to everything, which is something that happens, I think, to a lot of new moms, because they are tuning to listen to every breath of a baby, because it might die. The first year of life, you always think the baby's going to die, just normal, isn't it? And a lot of people are like, oh, what if you can't breathe? And so you're always like, you're like, psh, completely awake.
Yeah, that was
and
me.
You might keep that going later, that you're always listening up for that sound that there is a risk. And what I like about your approach, not only is a scientific evidence-based approach, also uses a lot of different modalities, such as advanced hypnosis, etc. But also you have what we call the seal of personal experience. So you've been through that and you suffer from insomnia for years. And now, from what I remember from my notes, you don't anymore. So
no, I don't.
What happened? How was your what are you able to share about your story?
Okay, so I didn't realize at the time that I had insomnia, so I put that in there. But when I realized I did have it, and then I looked back, that's when I realized I'd had it on and off for years. And I was like, oh my goodness, like I just thought I didn't sleep very well. I didn't actually think anything more of it until it got to like a crescendo, if you like. And it got really, really bad. And what I'd tried before didn't work. I was exhausted, but I couldn't sleep. And that includes in the day. And this is the thing. A lot of people think that people that have insomnia are really tired in the day and want to sleep and nap. And that's not actually the case. You may feel exhausted, but you don't feel tired. And that's the difference. So it's more like an emotional exhaustion from that keeping going. And very rarely do people with insomnia end up sleeping the day either. They don't nap and things generally. So I just kept going. That's what I'd done, I think at the time as well, one of my coping mechanisms for whatever was going on in my life at the time was work. So I just throw myself into work all the time. And so that kind of went hand in hand with the insomnia, if you like, because I was kind of going on the hamster wheel of work. Just keep going, which was great for my career at the time, because I was working so hard, but not very good for myself emotionally and physically. So every time I had a life stressor, whether it was, a family event or bereavement or relationship breakdown or some usual kind of, significant life stressor of some description, my sleep would just fall apart, basically. And I think, oh, it's okay. It's just for a couple of days, just for a couple of weeks or a couple of months in some cases. And some nights were better than others. So I think, oh, it's okay. Because like last night I slept okay. So this is why I never really thought I had insomnia. But I just thought in my mind, insomnia was never sleeping, for months on end. And then it got really bad. So something happened and I did not sleep a proper night's sleep at all, not even for one night, for months. I can't remember how long now, but months. So then I went to the GP and I said, look, sleep's not great. And I told them what was going on. And they were like, wow, how are you still alive? And that's when it dawned on me how bad it actually got. So it can creep up without you really realising, especially when you've got a busy life or you're full on with work. And I tried lots of things. The GP didn't actually offer me much, to be honest. Offered me some medication. I say sleeping medication lightly because it wasn't actually sleeping medication. So the first thing they offered was diazepam, or Valium as it's sometimes known in the States, which isn't actually a sleeping tablet. It's a benzodiazepine. So it's a muscle relaxant and used for anxiety. Not actually for sleep, although for some people it does help. Didn't help me. Yes, it helped me feel a bit relaxed, but not a proper relaxed. And I still felt a bit kind of edgy, if you like.
Edgy.
So I took that. Didn't really help. Went back to the GP, prescribed me another medication, which is actually in the UK meant to be a sleeping medication. That didn't really work either. Again, it made me dozy. Didn't actually make me have a good quality sleep. I didn't wake up feeling refreshed. I didn't have a good amount of sleep. If anything, I woke up feeling like I had a hangover every morning, which isn't really very good. And then it didn't even do that anymore. It didn't help at all. So I just stopped taking that after a while. And all these medications they've given me, I want to add in, they're all classed as short-term medications. So they're not medications that you're meant to take for months or weeks on end. They're meant to be very short-term, like a week, maybe two maximum. And I've taken them for that long, and this is, still no good. I tried meditation. I tried yoga. I used to have a whiskey or two before bed, thinking, oh, that might knock me out, and nothing was working. And it just got to a point where, I was literally sobbing on the floor. I just wanted to sleep. I desperately wanted to sleep, and nothing was working. And then I got offered some counselling. It was useful to get some stresses off my chest and talk about things. Didn't help me sleep. And that was it. And there's nothing else they could offer me. So I was like, what do I do now? I've tried yoga, I've tried lavender, I've tried drinking, I've tried tablets, I've tried counselling, I've tried essential oils, nighttime, bed routine, all of this, doing all the things that everyone talks about, pillow spray, everything, counting sheep, and still nothing. I was like, at this point, I think I was just getting really, really quite, because I thought, what else can I do? Felt really lost, really at an end. I thought, I can't carry on living like this, really. So then I had therapy. Now, it was a form of advanced clinical hypnotherapy, if you like. And that was combined with CBTI as well, or CBT, and psychotherapy and NLP, all kind of mixed in together. And I literally had, what was it now, maybe 2 sessions. That was it. But these sessions are big sessions. So these sessions lasted 2.5 hours. And
Wow.
which is more, not like counselling, that's usually 50 minutes to an hour. And it digs in really deep and obviously gets into your subconscious, which is amazing. So that's where all the activity is, isn't it? Where everything works, really, if you think about it, isn't it? We have more going on in our subconscious than we do consciously, really. So, and that got to the root cause. And that was the whole thing. I didn't want to just take a tablet or just do some yoga or do something that might help, because to me, it wasn't really helping. It was just putting a plaster on the wound and not really getting to the root cause. And to me, I thought, right, I need to get to the root cause. I need to resolve this once and for all now. I've had enough. So I paid and had this therapy, and it was amazing. And that's what did it. And then I had a recording to listen to, a hypnotherapy recording to listen to after each session for 30 to 40 days. And had check-in sessions and things after that. And yeah, it worked wonders. And I've not had a sleep problem, touch wood, since. So even when I've had a life stressor, like I've moved house since, which has been really stressful. I've become a mum since. I've had really poor family ill health, which has been really quite stressful to deal with, and the worry about that and my family. So some big life stress has thrown at me since then, and still I've been managing to sleep really well. So, and if at any time I feel like, oh, maybe tonight I might struggle, then I'll put on my recording I had from years ago and listen to it.
Incredible.
So it's amazing. It wonders. And so I've trained in doing that along with CBTI to offer clients the best of both. And I'm also trained in ACT, which is acceptance and commitment therapy, which I found really helpful, because when I did CBTI alone, I found that using an acceptance and commitment therapy way of working rather than a straight CBTI way of working was better for me. And I found that with my clients as well. So depending what people need, like I said, everyone's different, we're all unique. Some things work for one more than another, and so on. So I've got different skills and tools that I can bring in to help people.
What a wonderful story of recovery. A lot of it sounds like RTT. So you go down to the root, when you have a recording and you have a follow-up. So that's really RTT, isn't it? But CBTI, would you be able to explain this to our audience? Because most people will know cognitive behavioral therapy, but with the I in the end?
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
What does that mean?
CBTI, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. So it's specifically for insomnia. Okay. And it's a structured program that helps you to identify and replace thoughts and behaviors that can cause or worsen your sleep problems, such as sort of negative habits, relying on sleeping pills, and it helps you to sort of change those habits as well as changing your thoughts. So things like some cognitive reframing, for example, as well, that can come into CBTI. And it does help to kind of get to the underlying problem of your sleep as well, along with the hypnotherapy. I find together they work really well. So that's kind of like an overview of quantum. It works. So CBTI works more, whereas the hypnotherapy is more in like one large, say, 2-hour session or hour and a half, depending on the person and what comes up in that during that time. CBTI therapy works more in kind of shorter sessions, but say several of them rather than one. Does that make sense? So that's how that works. It works slightly differently, but you can combine the two, which is what I often do. And that tends to speed things up a little bit.
And that's incredible. Thank you for explaining, because I'm sure people will want to go and research what on earth is this remedy. I want it, and CBTI. Okay, that's useful to know. And so RTT, hypnosis, etc. And that's all very good. So a person can come to you and see all the symptoms, have his history taken and whatever, and then we can start the process of healing, which I think is going to be amazing. Now, I'm sure that before we close, we want to hear some tips, some advice, because you do this professionally. So for the person who cannot sleep at night, they go to sleep, they fall asleep, but then if they wake up, anything will wake them up. and then they cannot go back to sleep, whether it's 1 a.m. or 5 a.m., they cannot go back. So what are your top bits of advice that you can share now?
Okay, so my top advice. Okay, there's a few things that I think would be really useful to share. So, number one is look at your routine. And by that, I don't just mean your nighttime routine. I mean the whole 24-hour clock. Okay, because they impact each other like dominoes. Okay, you can't have one without the other. So looking at your day routine, looking at your evening and stroke night routine. And when doing that, making sure you have a consistent sleep time and wake up time, even at the weekends. And I know for some people that might sound boring, doesn't have to be forever, just while you're trying to rectify your sleep issues. Yeah, so have a consistent bedtime and a consistent wake up time every day. Okay. What else I want to add? That's two. Thinking about getting enough daylight, like I mentioned earlier, is really important because that daylight comes in through the retinas, goes back into the brain, the hypothalamus, etc., and that helps to stimulate our melatonin production and regulate our circadian rhythm. So getting enough daylight is really important. Even if you just get out for sort of 10, 20 minutes a day, and then build it up. Some people I work with say, they struggle to get out because of mental health problems. And I would say, well, if that's something that you struggle with, then get by a window, stand by a window, get some natural sunlight coming into you and on your face and your eyes. It helps with the production of vitamin D as well, and that's a mood enhancer. So it's all good. Natural daylight is wonderful.
And the low light, isn't it? Sorry to interrupt you, but Dr. Huberman from Huberman Lab, who is also obviously an ophthalmologist and professor of neurobiology at Stanford, so not nobody, he always says, you have to look at a low light in the morning and the low light in the evening to establish that you are waking up and it's time to go to sleep as the lights are going down. And that natural light is important to have it, because otherwise you fall asleep. And that's why I think if you go to the cinema in a really sunny day, 3 p.m., and it's all dark, you're kind of sleeping there because it's dark. Your body's like, what's going on here? So I feel the light thing is such a natural thing that we neglect. So thank you.
It is. And I think in this day and age as well, we're so used to being, what's the word? Focus on laptops, screens, up tablets, iPhones, mobile phones, work in an office, or work in a room somewhere, that we often forget to get up and just move and get outdoors, get light. And I think, it's one of those natural things that we've just, as society as a whole, has kind of neglected, really. And you're right with what he was saying, and getting that low light in the morning, the low light in the evening, because that's signaling to our mind and our body that it's wake up time and it's now wind down time, ready for bed.
Yes.
Go back to caveman times, really.
In the past, our ancestors had candles, had a fire.
Yeah.
They would read by the fire and kind of,
Exactly. Yeah.
Go down.
And I'd also say, sorry, Franz.
No, that's fine.
Okay. One thing I want to add as well that's really important is mindset. So being really mindful of our thoughts, feelings, beliefs, the language that we're using as well, externally and internally. So, for example, I work with a lot of people who, because they come to me last resort, they're like, Leanne, I just want to sleep. Why can't I sleep? I just want to sleep. I can't sleep. And all these things, I just want to sleep. I'm trying to sleep. Why can't I sleep? Those words, those phrases are quite negative. And what's that telling us is we're not going to sleep. We can't sleep. Why can't I go to sleep? Well, we're not going anywhere.
Sleep comes.
So exactly. So our brain, our primitive part of our brain will feel that going or that falling. I want to fall asleep, and it will stop us because it's a protective factor, and it's stopping us from falling or going somewhere. What it's doing is preventing us from sleeping at the same time. So really powerful is around our mindset and our language use. So that's really key as well.
How about the nutrition part of your tips?
Yes, that's a good point. Yes. So nutritionally wise, and I like the word nutrition, not diet. Nutrition. Because nutrition's key. So things like eating cherries, they're full of melatonin. They'll help produce our melatonin hormone. and certain nuts as well, certain fish are really, really useful. But more so in terms of making sure that we're not eating a large meal and then wanting to sleep half an hour later. Because what's happening then is we've eaten this lovely large meal and our body's digesting it, our liver's working 100%, our kidneys are working at 100%, our digestive tract's going full pelt to try and digest the food, our metabolism's going as well. That's all fuel and energy. So we can't expect to eat a big meal and then sleep well soon afterwards, because it's having the opposite effect. We want a relaxing environment. We want our body to be on a wind down. So it's calming, it's slowing down, preparing our mind and body ready to sleep.
Yes. And some foods are better than others. I was reading a couple of years ago when I'd done some studies. I was in an Imperial College course on metabolic disease and liver disease. And for some reason, the insulin bit was there. And it was saying that when we eat something sweet, the insulin will go high. And that will prevent us from sleeping. So it will, as long as the insulin there is a danger fact. So the body will be like, oh gosh, I have to do something. So you can't sleep because the insulin is there. And so it will affect everything. But also going to bed so late that you missed that melatonin phase when it's ascending. And Dr. Huberman said the melatonin keeps going higher, high from 6 p.m., 8 p.m., 9, it goes really high. Then it starts descending. So you have to go to sleep. When you start feeling a bit sleepy, that's the time to go to sleep. Don't wait until when you're awake again. Like this happened when I used to go dancing in discotheques, when I was in my 20s and 30s, when I had another life. And we used to go out and, I'm so tired after dinner. But then we go to the club and we totally wake up, and we start dancing and the sleep is just gone because it's a light, there's all this stuff, there's food, maybe you drink. I mean, I don't drink, but, that will keep you awake anyway. When you would go back to home, maybe 3 a.m., 4 a.m., you would wake up, go to work, and you would be like, I can't function, because of course you cannot, it's always important, this thing, you cannot get back the sleep that you have missed, because the cleanse that your brain had to do, it's gone. You just missed it. So it's important to really think about, so the sleep diary also, to take a look at your pattern, your times when you're going, monitoring, has this been going on for weeks on end or not? Looking at the routine, is that a true routine, or are you just saying you have a routine and then you go to bed at 9, at 10, at 11, at midnight, at 8?
Exactly.
Eating right, daylight, morning and evening, exercise, being active, because if you're sitting the entire day, and this can happen if you're ill, if you're disabled, if you have physical problems, that's very difficult then, because you're not really tired, aren't you? And then you have this consistency in everything, and then you have your mindset. And also realizing every day that sleep is something that we are born with. We all go to sleep. All nature goes to sleep. So it is natural and it comes to us. We don't have to look for it. It comes to us. And when everything we're doing is not working, something isn't there. And that's the time to go and see a person like you, so Leanne Naylor, sleep specialist, and finally get the sleep that we deserve. Is that correct? Yeah.
Correct. Spot on, Franz.
Spot on. But this is not to advertise Leanne. We just want to advertise you and your right to sleep, right? We all have a right. Sleep is so understated, and it's important. It is important because the lack of sleep will cause problems in all the organs and in the brain and to the immune system. And once the cortisol is in, because you're not sleeping, then you can be, in a bad mood, tired, not focused. You might have an accident. How many accidents there are? Because truck drivers, for example, they pushed a lot so that they could finally have loss. So they don't have to have terrible shifts, because they sometimes had terrible accidents because they were not awake. Pilots the same. So it's important to really appreciate what sleep is. It's our gift that we have to clean up all the debris and stuff from the brain, clean up all the stuff, restore health, cleanse the organs. And this happens between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. It doesn't happen any other time. That's how the body is. And if we are condemned to do shift work, or we have disabled children and wake up, and yes, there are all this, but the majority of people don't have the problem and still cannot sleep. And that's the time where we can go have an RTT session, use advanced conversational hypnosis. I don't even know the name of my own stuff. And any other modality that will help us, because the professional person will help us to really go deep and see what is actually going on, the root cause.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I'm thankful you've been there, Leanne. That was so good. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Franz.
So guys, I think that this has been a very eye-opening exercise. Thinking about eye closing in the night, but eye-opening now. So I'm glad that you've been listening, and please share this with any of your friends that find it difficult to sleep the whole night. So click share and go and visit all the websites and links that we give you, and I'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.